Uh, Once again, thanks everybody. My name is Chris Rosado. I'm one of the counselors at Serrano High School. If you can see the rest of your screen, a lot of avatars on there, but Michelle Scribner is also joining us, and Michelle Berberena is also joining us. Our fourth counselor, Leslie Carver, wanted to be here and join us virtually, but she was not able to. But we're going to move right along into a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go through and try to share some important tips that we shared with all of our ninth graders today during their win. So you know, and you'll see exactly what they saw and they heard. They actually heard a narrated version of this presentation. It was narrated by myself, and while as difficult as that is, listening to my voice over and over while I was preparing this, I'm really happy that Ms. Scribner and Ms. Berberena are here to help with this presentation, because I feel like it adds a lot of variety and flavor and ideas that we want to share with you as parents, and that we shared with our ninth graders. So I just want to remind everybody that we're recording this presentation, and as more and more people hopefully join us, we can get through this presentation, and we will have time at the end of the presentation for you to ask questions, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. And let's see. All right, so this is our first slide, and just to introduce ourselves once more, I'm Chris Rosado. I'm one of the counselors here at Serrano High School. I typically work with students whose last names begin with the alpha A through ER. I also serve Serrano High School seniors through the Bridge program partnership that we have with our local community college, Victor Valley College. And you see there my email address. When we originally put this slideshow together, it was during the pandemic. It kind of feels that way in this setting, just because we're doing this virtually, where in years past we've done this in person. We're doing our best to follow the guidelines that our district has given us and not holding in-person presentations, although we are hoping that that changes soon. Also, you'll see on this slide, Miss Leslie, the counselor I mentioned that couldn't be with us here this evening. She works with students whose last names begin with ES through L, and she works specifically with our Early College Academy program. Fairly new program. It's about, I think, 2 years in its inception, and it's offered to our 10th, or soon to be, hopefully, our 10th graders, but primarily 11th and 12th graders, and you see her email address there as well. And next you see our lead counselor, Miss Michelle Scribner. Just saw her waving at us. You'll see her email address. And last but certainly not least, oh, and I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that Ms. Scribner works with students whose last names begin with M and go through RA, and Ms. Berberena, who works with students RE through Z, and she also works with our AVID program. So that's the four of us. We compose the counseling team here at Serrano High School. We've met a lot of your students in person, and we are just excited that we are able to have classes in person, and we can try to get back to some form of normalcy. We know that after almost 1.5 years of either remote learning or hybrid learning, you know, some of the skills that our students have learned in preparing for their 4 years of high school, you know, it might be wise and maybe prudent to go through some of the important things that we think will help them be successful at Serrano High School. So the 4 bullet points that I'm just going to go through are communication, homework, staying informed, and accessing resources. So of course, this was presented to your ninth graders, and it's changed a little bit. And I've got to say that since the pandemic, communication has really changed. How we teach, how we counsel, how we communicate with our administration. And we want to emphasize to our students that communication is really going to be a very important skill to learn if they haven't in the past, or maybe develop as they progress through the 4 years here at Serrano. Of course, now that we are back to in person and in the classroom, we always encourage our students to raise their hands, right, and participate in the lesson, ask questions. When they're experiencing difficulty, we want your students to learn how to ask their teachers for help, because they are the ones who know the topic. They are the experts in their subjects, and raising their hand and asking the questions in the classroom is always the best time to get that information. But we know that sometimes our students are a little shy, maybe feel a little intimidated, being back in the classroom and trying to get back into the swing of things. So we say, if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand in class and asking your teacher during class time, reach out to your teachers via email. And I think that's a skill that I've seen grow in our students in the last year and a half, using email as a means of communicating with their teachers. Now, I feel like that's kind of been a double-edged sword for us, because we really encouraged our ninth graders last year, all of our students really, to communicate with their teachers via email. And in a lot of cases, teachers would, start their class with several emails. I'm talking like 10s or 20, 30 emails. And so there was delay in communicating back and forth between teachers and students. And so that's why I think it's important that we use email as a resource, but not rely on it 100%. We want to be communicating with our teachers face to face, having those conversations where an email is just too difficult to convey information, but it's really important. And your students and you hopefully know where to find your teachers' email addresses, and that would be primarily in Aries. We are still using Aries as our primary portal for looking at grades, checking attendance, and hopefully your students' teachers have their email addresses posted on Aries so that you can communicate with them. But if that is not the case, we can ask counselors or guidance technicians to share those email addresses with you and your students, because the teachers are really the ones that we want to direct you to. The second bullet point there was homework. And I know a lot of students that say, well, I don't get homework. We do our work in class and I don't have to do anything after school. And so I know that that might be true in some cases. There are some classes that don't have homework on a regular basis, or maybe it's classwork that turns into homework if it's not completed during the regular class time. But really the important thing to remember is that the homework assignment emphasizes, or maybe goes more in depth about what the student learned in class. So it's not only important to do the work, but also turning in the work. I can't tell you how many times students have told me, well, I did my homework, but it's in my backpack. That doesn't help our students, right? Unless they turn it in and have their name on their paper. Those things that they learned in middle school and in elementary school still apply. They need to turn in their homework when there is homework, and they need to have their name on it, and they need to turn it in. So if your student maybe says, well, I don't have any homework from that class, ask the question, was there classwork that you didn't finish that became homework? And so, you know, our students are resourceful, and sometimes they like to, you know, put those things off, but I can't tell you enough how much homework is vital to reinforce the learning that happens in the classroom. And it continues from subject to subject. Okay, the next tips, more than one, is staying informed. I mentioned earlier that we are still using Aries. And so if you're not familiar with the Aries portal, we can provide parents handouts. Your students have their own Aries account. Sometimes parents rely on the students to log into their Aries to show them what to do. I would encourage you, if you do not have your own parent account, to do so, to create a parent account so that you can, in your own time, just check your students' grades and attendance. Not only are grades posted there, but attendance is posted there. So your student might say, I didn't know I was marked tardy. And suddenly they have, you know, multiple tardies for multiple classes and they didn't know. Well, we're going to ask, did you check Aries? And because that's where all of that information can be found. We also encourage you to check our school's website. There's a lot of great information and resources, not only from the counseling department, but the ASB, our front office, information about work permits, driver's education, bell schedules, clubs, all kinds of interesting things that your students can get involved with, sports, band, cheer. The most important, not the most important, but one of the more important things that we always encourage our ninth graders to do is get involved with a club or a program, whether it's the ag program, the MMA program when they get into 10th grade, the medical pathway. There are so many different opportunities for them to connect with other students that are interested in the same thing. And if they want to know where to find that information about clubs or when they meet, the school's website has a ton of information. Last year, we talked a lot about Canvas, right? Canvas was a brand new platform. We had to turn to that as we were learning remotely. And there's still some kind of fear out there, I think, from our students that we're going to go back to it. Our school is still using Canvas. A lot of teachers are prepared in the event that we have to go remote again. But not all teachers are currently using the Canvas platform. And I would say check with your students' specific teachers if they are using the Canvas platform. But because we're you know, in person, the instruction is happening in the classroom, the handouts are going out in classrooms. Canvas is a resource. It's not our primary method of delivering instruction, but it is still there. It is still a resource that some teachers might turn to. But if your student, you know, obviously as a ninth grader, never used this last year and needs some help learning how to use that, we can help them in counseling. Their teachers should be walking them through how to log into that account. It's linked to their student email address. So while it's not a primary method of instruction, it is still there. And if the teacher is using it, they are showing your students how to use it. Accessing your resources. There are so many adults on campus that want to help your ninth grader be successful. You know, there are teachers, there are tutors, student tutors, the counseling office, the staff in the counseling office, the student resource office, formerly known as the dean's office, the staff in there, the nutrition services people, our coaches. We're all here to help our students learn, be successful, and just make the next 4 years of high school interesting and successful. and help them when they're struggling. Another resource that we recently partnered up with, and we'll talk a little bit more about later on, is the californiacolleges.edu platform. Your student can register their account. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Like I mentioned, they should have seen this presentation during WIN today. We know that not all ninth graders have Chromebooks yet, so they probably might not have registered their account, but we are definitely going to keep following up with ninth grade teachers in their WIN classes to make sure that they all do get registered, because there's a ton of resources there that we want your students to use. And of course, as a counselor, we are always here to communicate with your student. We partner with a guidance technician working in the 4 different alpha that I mentioned earlier. So I know that sometimes it gets confusing, you know, who I talk to, whether it's my guidance technician or my counselor. We're really a team, and we're all working towards the same goal. But if there's ever a problem or you need to talk to somebody, come to counseling and we will get you to the right person. So do grades really matter starting from ninth grade? Absolutely. And we emphasize this so much with our students because they are not only a reflection of how they're learning the content, but we also use them as a gauge to whether your student can play sports or eventually get a work permit. Grades help colleges determine, you know, acceptance with the SAT and ACT kind of being put on the side or temporarily not being used as a determining factor in some college acceptances. You know, the quality of grades matters from ninth grade all the way through 12th grade. They will help determine whether your student can graduate as a high honors student or an honors student. And I wouldn't be surprised that many of you have attended a graduation ceremony in the past and know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'll get a little more in depth on that in a couple slides. And ultimately, when they're preparing to move on to the next step in their education, grades will help determine their eligibility for scholarships or grants, which is free money. And I know as a parent of college graduates, that is invaluable. So grades really do matter from ninth grade through 12th grade. Can't emphasize that enough. All right, so I mentioned just a little while ago our honors and high honors distinctions at graduation. And I know as ninth graders, you know, graduation is a faraway event. But if that is a goal of the student, or, you know, that is something that they want to be recognized for and can put on a college application, I think it's a fantastic way to recognize and, you know, congratulate students in our graduation ceremonies. So we use the cumulative GPA of our students from ninth grade all the way to the 3rd quarter of their senior year. So that's 7.5 semesters of cumulative GPA. And if your student earns, oh, that moved all by itself. So if your student earns a 4.0 GPA or above and complete a 2-year CTE sequence or meet the A through G requirements, they will be recognized in the graduation ceremony as a high honors graduate. And that means that they will be wearing the gold cap and gown and blue sash that you see pictured there. And they are leading the procession at the graduation ceremony. And I know that the last 2 graduating classes have been a little bit different than in years past. but we were able to have a traditional high school graduation ceremony this past June, and it was just great. So that goal can start being worked on as early as 9th grade. And then next, if their GPA is a 3.5 or above, so a 3.5 to a 3.99, your student will be recognized as an honors graduate. And there you see pictured a student with the blue cap and gown and the yellow sash, so that they're distinguished from their peers in that manner. All right, and now I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Scribner.
Hi, so thanks again for joining us tonight. Hopefully we'll be able to provide some information that will be helpful for you. So our goal is always to help our students be ready for whatever it is that they're going to choose to do after they graduate from Serrano. There are many options, and we have students every year that take advantage of each of these options. We always have some students who go straight into the workforce. Sometimes they have families who have family businesses that they're going to be a part of, or there's some other career that they're very interested in, and that's where they head off to. We always so appreciate our students who are willing to sign up for our military to help keep our country safe. And so we definitely have students who look to that as an option for them. We do have military recruiters that come onto campus to talk with students when they have questions. That's on hold right now because of COVID. But if a student was interested, we would certainly help them to make a connection with a recruiter if they needed to. Community colleges is another great option for many of our students. VVC, or Victor Valley College, is our closest campus, and we have a lot of partnerships with them. The bridge program that Mr. Rosado mentioned when we first got started is directly connected to VVC. One of the great things about community colleges, students don't have particular classes or grades that have to be passed or taken in high school in order for them to go there. They tend to be less expensive, and so it's also a very good option for students who are looking to maybe make college a little more affordable. This year, VVC was able to provide free tuition to all of their first-year students as long as they followed the steps that they needed to take. Don't know how long that program will continue, but it sure was a great possibility for our students this year. We also have plenty of students who choose to go into a specific trade or skilled career. So there's all kinds of trade schools, certificate programs, and technical training. That is another option. And then finally, we have our four-year college or university options. Within California, there are two public university systems. There's this Cal State University system and the University of California. So those are known as the CSUs and the UCs. And then obviously there's lots of private colleges and universities here in California, as well as out-of-state public colleges and universities too. So those are really the kinds of things that we know that our students are going to be preparing to move on to once they leave Serrano, and we want to send them on their way as prepared as possible. We also want them to get to their senior year and have as many opportunities from which they can choose as possible. If they limit themselves to just one as early as their freshman year, by the time they're seniors, we all know kids change their mind an awful lot. And so we would hate for them to get to their senior year and say, oh gosh, I never really thought about this option, but now it's not available to me because I didn't prepare for it. So we're always going to encourage our students to go through Serrano as if they're going to plan to attend a four-year college or university when they graduate. That way they're getting the best education that they can while they're here at Serrano. And also all of these possibilities that are listed on this screen are going to be available for them to consider and for which to choose. So on the next slide, we're going to take a look at the graduation requirements from Serrano, as well as the college entrance requirements. So I mentioned that the community colleges don't have entrance requirements, but California public universities and any other public or private university will also have entrance requirements. There's a lot of similarities, but there's some key differences. It's important for parents and students to understand those as early as their freshman year, because the classes they're taking this year count for graduation, and they also count toward their college entrance requirements. So the way that this table is set up, you'll see the subject areas and then what Serrano requires, how many credits are required, and then what the college CSU or UC requirements are. In the subject area, you'll see before each subject there's a letter. Those letters are the letters A through G. We didn't assign those letters. That's a system that was put into place by the universities. So when you hear us refer to the A through G requirements, we're specifically referring to the college entrance requirements for the Cal State and the UC systems. This is something that's statewide, so no matter what school they went to in California, those A through G requirements would be the same. So there's a lot of consistency there, which makes it a little easier if students have to move from one place to another. So the first category is social science. This year, our freshmen don't take a social science class, but for the 3 remaining years of high school, they will. They'll need 1 year of world history, which they take as a sophomore, 1 year of US history in their junior year, and then in their senior year, they take a semester each of government and economics. That's a total of 30 credits that are required. For the Cal State requirement, it's pretty similar. They're going to have 1 year of world history and 1 year of US history, or a semester of US history and 1 semester of American government. So if they're meeting the high school graduation requirements, they're going to be in great shape for those A through G requirements. A key difference, and you'll note this down at the bottom of this table, for the Cal State and UC systems, they have to earn a C- or better in order for their system to accept that class as completed. For graduation purposes, students need to earn a D- or better. We don't like Ds, and we don't encourage our students to earn Ds. We want them to earn Cs in all classes or better. But it is, according to Ed Code, a D is considered passing, and so students will earn their credits for graduation for that purpose. The B category is English. Students have to take English all 4 years and pass all first 4 years or 8 semesters of English for graduation. The same is true for the Cal State and the UC system. C is the math category. Serrano's graduation requirement is 3 years. And for the Cal States and UCs, it's also 3 years. The difference is that for graduation, it's 3 years of any level of math. For the A through G requirement, they have to take at least Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. It's highly recommended that they also take a 4th year of math. If they're going to continue their education, they're going to have more math. And taking a year off of math, those math skills kind of float away. And so we encourage all of our students to take math in their senior year. The D category is science. For graduation, they need 1 year of physical science, 1 year of life science, and then another year of either life or physical. So this year, our freshmen are taking either physical science, that's the actual name of the course, or principles of physics, unless they're in the FFA program and then they are taking a biology class. But then in their sophomore year, if they haven't taken biology this year, they'll take biology next year. That's a total of 30 credits required for graduation. This is pretty similar to the A through G requirement. They're going to need a year of life science and then a year of an approved physical science lab class. So the class they're taking this year, no matter what it is, it will meet one of the requirements for the A through Gs, and then next year the same would be true. You guys hanging with me so far? I hope so. The next requirements can be a little confusing because there's some difference between the graduation requirement and the Cal State and the UC requirement. So the graduation requirement is that students need to have 1 year of a language other than English, foreign language, world language, however you would like to call it, or, big or, 1 year of a visual or performing art, or, again, the big or, 1 year of a CTE class, such as restaurant, wood shop, introduction to agriculture, 3D animation, okay? So graduation is just 1 year of one of those 3 categories. Not one of each, but one of those, or one of the 3 categories. When we get to the A through G requirement, it's actually the E and the F requirement, and this is where the difference comes, and this is what can be confusing. The E requirement is the world language or language other than English, and for that, students have to have 2 years of the same language. So at Serrano, that's either Spanish or American Sign Language. 3 years is recommended, but they have to have at least 2 years for the A through G requirement. The F category is the visual or performing art, also known as the VAPA, and they have to have 1 year of a class in that category as well. So that's where you can see the difference. For graduation, it's either or. For A through G, it's both. Okay. We work with students about with this throughout their time here at Serrano, and we're always happy to explain it in a way that may make more sense to them. Then finally, the G category is electives. For Serrano, they're going to need a total of 70 credits of electives. There are lots of ways that students can earn electives, elective credits. So this year as freshmen, they're taking 3 classes that are considered elective, or 2 classes that are considered electives. Those count toward that category if they're not counting toward the language or fine art class. If they take math for a 4th year, that 4th year of math is considered an elective because it's above the requirement. So that also counts towards electives. Some students choose to take 4 years of science. That 4th year of science would be considered an elective because they're electing to choose it. So it's not a problem, even though that 70 looks really big. It's really easy for students to earn their 70 credits. For the G category requirement in our A through G college entrance requirement, they're going to need 1 more year of an approved A through G course class. So in addition to the social science, the English, the math, and so on, they'll just need 1 more year. If they meet the world history and US history requirement, their economics and government class, their senior year counts there. They take a 4th year of math, it counts there. There's plenty of ways for students to get that additional year. It's usually not a problem at all for our students to do that. Finally, we have physical education, which is graduation requirement only. This does not apply to colleges at all. Students must have 2 years of physical education for a total of 20 credits, and they have to pass their freshman PE class because embedded into that class is their health curriculum that's required by the state of California. So they got to pass freshman PE, and then they have the remaining 3 years to get those other 10 credits that they'll need. So for graduation, it's a total of 230 credits. Okay. If students take 6 classes each year or each semester, that's 2 semesters per year, they can earn a total of 60 credits in a year. 60 times 4 is 240 credits. So it's not going to be a problem for our students to reach that goal of 230 as long as they're passing their classes. If students are on track going into their senior year, they've passed everything, then it is possible for them to have a shortened schedule and only have to take 5 classes in their senior year, and they would still meet that 230 credit requirement. So we will review this with students frequently throughout their time. We actually sit down with students each year when we're choosing classes for the next year with recommendations to meet graduation and A through G requirements, because like I said, we encourage all of our students to try and meet those A through G requirements so that they have all opportunities available to them come their senior year. All right. So I spent a lot of time on that slide talking about the college entrance requirements. And so I don't really need to say a whole lot with this slide here because I think I probably covered it all. Again, the biggest thing is that the courses have to be on our approved A through G list. And so many of our classes are on there. So it's really not hard for students to meet those requirements. We worked really hard in the last few years to get as many of our elective classes approved as A through G classes as possible, just to make it that much easier for students to meet these requirements. Again, they have to have 2 years of a world language and a year of the fine and performing arts course, a little different from graduation. And then most importantly, they have to have at least C- or better in their A through G courses in order to meet the requirement. This is super important. C's will meet the requirement, but if they have all C's, their GPA will be too low and it will make it very difficult for them to get into the 4-year schools. So they really need to be shooting to get A's and B's in as many classes as possible. And then because the A through G requirements are specific to the Cal States and the University of California schools, they may not be an exact fit to out-of-state or private schools, but we have found in most situations, if students are meeting A through G course requirements, they're going to be in really, really good shape for private and out-of-state schools. We can always help a student look up a specific school and see what their entrance requirements are to make sure that they're on track if they have a specific school in mind that's not in the CSU or UC system. But again, the A through G requirements are a very good goal. All right, moving on from here. So Mr. Rosado mentioned earlier as one of our resources, the californiacolleges.edu platform. We partnered with this program starting last year called the California College Guidance Initiative. This is a statewide initiative to really help all students in the state of California prepare for their post-secondary options. We've been working on really implementing or integrating this platform into our classes. Last year, we were really limited because of the restrictions with COVID in terms of remote learning and teachers just trying to keep their head above water and be there for their students. So we didn't get to do as much with it last year as we had hoped, but we're hoping that this year, now that we're back in person, that's going to change. So I'm going to take over the presentation at this point so that I can show you guys a little bit about this. Oops, I clicked on the wrong button. So I can show you a little bit about this platform to give you a good idea as to why it's worthwhile to get your student on there. And of course, it timed me out, so let me sign back in really quickly. There we go. So when it first opens up, my screen looks a little bit different because I'm on the educator website. But once your student sets up an account, and parents, you can also set up an account too, you'll see something along these lines. Up here at the top, there are 3 different areas that californiacolleges.edu helps to provide information. We have a section on colleges, on careers, and on financial aid. So just to give you an idea on the college side of things, there's all kinds of great tools here. There's a college search tool where you can filter down all different types of aspects that you might want to consider when you're looking at school. And if we'll just try to give you a quick example here. See, we want to study in engineering in California. That's really a simple search, but it's going to give me a list of all of the schools in California that have engineering programs. And then each one can be opened and a student can explore that school a little bit. So that's one thing that's available. Then there's, just informational pages that kind of explain what the difference is between the different kinds of college options that students have. Gives them an idea of what A through G is. So what I just talked about with you, you could go there. They could build their own college list where they can have schools that they're interested in that they save there. So you'll see there's just a wealth of information. All of these are live links that students and parents can go to get information. If students aren't really sure what they want to do with their life, which is not an unusual thing at all, they can come to the career section and they can fill out some profile questions that will take their interests and their skills and their abilities and dial it down to careers that might be a good match for them based on the responses that they gave. If they have a specific career that they think that they might want to explore a little bit, they can use this career search tool, kind of like what I was saying with the college. And again, they can pull up, a job, and oops, would help if I typed it in correctly. And then it'll again give them a list of those careers that might be of interest to them. They can click on it. They can get more information about what the job entails, what kind of education they need, and how much money they might make. For financial aid, this is just a great page. It's got so much information because understanding financial aid can be very overwhelming. And because of that, sometimes students and parents will just say, oh, college isn't affordable, so we're just not going to consider it. But if they really find out what financial aid might be available to them, they might change their mind. So again, just like the other pages, a wealth of information that's available for parents and students. So Mr. Rosado mentioned earlier that, I'm going to stop presenting here, that the students were given the opportunity in their WIN class today to see the presentation that we're sharing with you, and then also to access the account or the website so that they could set up their account. We realized after the fact, an error on our part for sure, that not all of our freshmen have their Chromebooks checked out to them yet. So we know that some students were able to get their account set up today. And so that was good to see, but we know that there are a lot of others that still need to do that. They are able to do this at home. They were all given a handout, or should have been given a handout in WIN today that gives them the instructions of how to set up that account. So you might want to ask your student about that. And if they haven't set it up maybe together, that's something that you guys could do if you've got access to a computer to get that taken care of, so you can start taking advantage of the information that's available to you. All right, Mr. Rosado, I'm going to stop presenting so you can take back over and you can go on to the next slide. I mentioned that there is a helpful, or that parents can also set up an account to access information on the California College's website. And there's all kinds of tutorials that are available, videos that are available. This is what the students need to set up their account. And again, this information was given to them and their WIN class today. If it wasn't, tell them to come to the counseling office and we'll be happy to give them the handout that they should have gotten. And we'll also make sure that the WIN teacher gets it to them next week if it was a whole class that didn't get it. So pretty simple to set up. And then again, like I said, there's all different kinds of videos that are available. This presentation will be posted on our website, so you'll be able to access that extremely long playlist link that's there at the bottom. But if you just did a YouTube search for californiacolleges.edu, their bank of videos will pop up. They're pretty short. They're very well done to make it pretty easy to follow and understand what you're supposed to do to access these resources that are available to you. We're very, very excited about the possibilities of this website, and it's definitely something that we will be using with your students in their 4 years here at Serrano. And when they get to their senior year, it's going to make the application process much easier because there's a lot of tools that we'll be accessing through this website to help them with their college applications and their financial aid applications. So again, thanks very much for being here with us tonight. This is my part. I'm done. I'll still be here to help answer questions at the end, and I'm always happy and willing to work with students. So please feel free to reach out to me if you ever have any questions.
So thanks for sticking with us, everyone. My name's Michelle Berberena. I appreciate your time, and if you hopefully if you have any questions, we'll be able to answer some of those in just a few minutes. One of our tools that we use in the counseling office and our ASB administration and some of the other clubs and groups on campus is called the Band app. So doesn't mean that your student has to be in the band, but it is a text messaging system, and it allows us to kind of just send out those messages short and sweet to that targeted audience. So we would love if parents and students would sign up for this tool. You can use it via text, or you can also sign up using an email if you don't want to receive text messages. But we try to do our best to get out information school-wide. I know if we have you know, some kind of celebration going on, we'll send information out. Snow days, things that, you know, just kind of pop up. This is our easiest and probably fastest way to connect with our students and parents. And then they just have to sign up once, which we love, because then this kind of follows them throughout the next 4 years. And so definitely we use this quite often with our seniors and even juniors to remind them about deadlines that are outside of school. So college application deadlines, financial aid application deadlines, scholarship application deadlines, things like that. So again, sign up once, you get all that information. You can also chat privately if you download the app. So if you have questions, I'm the one that monitors the account, and if I can't answer, I'll usually reach out to my colleagues and say, help, I'm not quite sure how to answer this question for this parent or student. But we have found that it's a very useful tool as well. And then the last thing we want you to know is that, you know, our department wants your student to be successful. We're there Monday through Friday, usually from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're available by appointment. You can email us. You can walk in before, after, or during lunch. Of course, with COVID, we want you to kind of make an appointment ahead of time because we have to make sure that the front office has the space and is aware that we are having a visitor or an appointment on campus. So we want you to know we're here to help. We are accessible, and we want your student to enjoy coming to school and be as successful as they possibly can at Serrano. So there we are. Thank you for staying with us tonight. And if you have any questions, are we going to open it up, Mr. Rosado? Ms. Scribner?
Yes, and if you all can see, I don't know if this is available on mobile devices, but there is a small hand icon right at the center bottom of your screen there. If there's anyone that has a question and has that icon, I encourage you to use that. Or there's also a chat function if you want to ask the question in the chat, and then we can answer that question as best we can. We know for our ninth graders, this might be overwhelming. This is a lot of information, and so that's why we wanted to post it on our website and make this presentation available to parents as well, so that we are all on the same page and kind of know what's expected of our students. So we know that we're trying to get back to normal and trying to do our best to help our students find success after that last year and almost a half of distance learning. So are there any questions out there? All right, I'm going to take that as we were like super thorough. Oh, I see Miss Bartlett there. Hi, Miss Bartlett. Thank you so much for the compliment. We miss you on campus, but know that you are serving.
I miss you guys. Well, my question was
deserving population.
You're so nice. I was going to ask you, how do I get my freshmen interested in all of this important information? But since I don't see any wands in the picture or magic potions or spells, I didn't want to ask that out loud.
Well, we just try to just hit them with it over and over and over again in hopes that it sinks in and one day they'll realize, oh, now I get what they were talking about. And if we can just keep encouraging them to use those A through D requirements as their kind of goalposts, so that no matter what they choose to do at the end of their senior year, they're going to be in really good shape. So we'll do our part, sans magic wand, but we will definitely do whatever we can. Sometimes we don't know. I know as a parent, my kids were much more likely to listen to the message from somebody other than me, even though I was delivering the same exact message. They just need to hear it from a different voice. And so we are more than happy to be that voice, and also to be that voice in partnership with the parents.
Another just piece of information is we try, and we're not quite sure what that's going to look like again this year, but we do try to meet with our freshmen to discuss their future plans and kind of set up a 4-year plan for each student, so that regardless of their level of interest, they kind of hear it personalized for them. So, Miss Bartlett, I'm sure that we could arrange for your daughter to meet with her counselor and just start that conversation. But we're hoping to go out either through a video and then meeting with our students, or doing it in small groups or large groups or individually. We're trying to figure out how that will look, but we'll be definitely using that California College's website to kind of start that conversation and use those tools. But I think that meeting is really important for our freshmen because it helps give them some context and some visual about, okay, I know you're talking about all this stuff, but like, what do I need to do?
No, and I appreciate that, because I feel like a piece that might be missing is sort of big picture things. So to see the sequence over 4 years, I can say all day long, oh, this is what's coming after high school. This is what's coming after high school. This is what's coming after high school. And like Michelle, you were saying, it kind of is a little bit on deaf ears. Maybe it would be better for somebody else to paint that big picture. I would really appreciate that, and just provide context, like you have options, and maybe it's best for you to put your efforts down this A through G path and make sure you leave all of those options. I also feel like she might have apprehension about like commitment or something, as if the decisions that she's making right now, she has to live with that forever. And so I don't really know how to guide her in that, exploring lots of possibilities, but preparing for any of them. Who knows what you're going to choose? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think too, I'm sure the parents, you probably felt this too. I went through those requirements. They were all there. It can feel a little overwhelming. I know whenever I talk with students at first about 230 credits, their eyes are like this. How am I ever going to do that? But when we break it down and we show them you already know what your freshman year is like. So let's look at what your sophomore, your junior, and your senior year could be. We can always adjust. We can always, change things once you learn more about the classes that Toronto offers. But just to break it down into those smaller chunks makes it so much easier for them to understand, and to really help them to say, it's just a plan. We all make plans, and plans sometimes come through completely as we thought they would, and sometimes they don't. But at least we have an idea of the direction that we're headed. So those are the types of conversations, and I'm really glad that Mrs. Berberena mentioned that we do meet with our freshmen to go over that idea with them and to help them kind of personalize it so it does feel a little bit more like their own than somebody else telling them what they need to do, which is what's happened in middle school. Maybe they got to choose an elective, but other than that, it was like, here are your classes. High school, they have a lot more opportunity to make those choices based on what their interest and their needs are.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions, we will wrap this presentation up. Again, we thank you all so much for your time and logging in and bearing with us during another virtual meeting. We would much rather do this in person, but we have to work within the guidelines that we've been given. So we wanted to be sure to convey this information. Again, it'll be posted on our website. If you need to find our email addresses, you can go to Serrano's website and find the counseling tab and drop down there, and you'll find the counseling staff link, which will show you our email addresses. If you do have questions regarding your specific student, you can reach out to us via email. I'm not sure if our extensions are on there, but you can also call us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Just bear with us. We have gotten through the first 3 to 4 weeks of school, and I think we're looking at some positive things. I'm very hopeful. I hope you feel hopeful as well, and can turn to us when you need some help or guidance. But I can't thank you all enough for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.